This podcast is supported by FX's English teacher. Last year's critically acclaimed series returns to follow Evan, Gwen, and Marky as they vie for their students' divided attention. See why Cosmopolitan called its premiere season a masterclass of comedy, while Glamour raved it's the year's funniest and most heartwarming new comedy series. FX's English teacher. All new Thursdays on FX. All episodes now streaming on Hulu.
Purina believes no one should have to make the impossible choice between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
I'm always looking for ways to show my cat how much I love her. And with Fancy Feast gems, I can pamper her whenever I want with a savory gravy on top of a gourmet mousse pâté. The pyramid shape makes serving simple, so all I have to do is peel and plate to make mealtime feel extra fancy. And with 2 entrees in every pack, it's easy to turn every day into the extraordinary. Fancy Feast gems.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Nature's Bounty. Nature's Bounty believes your body is brilliant, naturally designed to thrive, inside and out. For those always looking for new ways to support your health from head to heels, Nature's Bounty has a range of over 400 vitamins and supplements born from 50 years of trust and care. Nature's Bounty. It's in your nature. Visit naturesbounty.com to learn more.
Tom, best gelatinous food.
Flan.
Flan is correct. Flan is the answer. Burnt sugar, little hint of cinnamon. Watch it wiggle, see it jiggle. Flan is fantastic.
Have we ever done that? Have we agreed on the pop quiz at the top?
No, but this is definitive. This requires no dissent. And this is Pack Your Knives. I'm Kevin Arnovitz.
And I'm Tom Haberstroh.
Tom, it has been an exceptional week in Pack Your Knives lore. Not only are we getting to the end of what I think is a pretty exceptional season, but you flew from Charlotte's Douglas International Airport to Los Angeles on Monday morning for 24 hours. For what I think was probably, you and I have hung out in a lot of cool places, including the NBA Finals in Miami and countless other high-profile NBA events. I don't know if we've ever had more fun than the visit to Tom Colicchio's restaurant Craft on Monday night for a special Top Chef event where the winners of Restaurant Wars recreated the Restaurant War winning meal.
Kevin, I'm still floating. I don't know about you. I'm just, the fact that we were even invited to come out to this event and be in the presence of Tom Colicchio or Gail or Amar or Buddha or Sarah or Ali or eat at Kraft. All of these things would have been fine on its own. And the fact that we got all of those things in one amazing, spectacular night exceeded all my expectations. I had very high expectations on the night, and it was just an absolutely delightful surprise. I mean, I think we got the email like a few days before we left. It wasn't like, oh, we knew this the entire season of Top Chef this year, that we were going to be able to convene and have this meal. Though this was very last minute. And it just was, you know, as we went on a long walk in LA that afternoon with Howard the dog, and it was so pleasant. I was reminded of the fact that we thought of this podcast 6 years ago while going on a run. I think it was around the Rose Bowl, wasn't it?
It was.
And I was just like, you know, Kevin, we both love Top Chef. We both talk about this show every week. We have a weekly phone call. Why don't we start a podcast and just call it Pack Your Knives and, do these fantasy teams? And it was just this very pie in the sky idea that maybe 6 people would listen to, but hey, it would be such a cool hobby to turn into something that we could look back and say, hey, wasn't that fun that we did a Top Chef podcast? Never in my wildest dreams, Kevin, would I have ever thought that we would ever be invited to something like this. And it was a real treat. And I want to thank all the people that made it happen and all the people involved. It was actually our producer that was on the show, T Win, was there as well and sat at our table. So it was just sensational.
Yeah, it was on 2 levels, right? I mean, first was, you got a sense of the Top Chef community, hanging out with the chefs, just kind of, chewing the fat with them, hearing some fun impressions that you wouldn't necessarily get on camera. And that was a blast. And then there was also the fun eating part, which is one of the better meals I had. You and I have always said, hey, if there's one regret, it's just a limitation of human life is, Top Chef is the one competition show where you can't really participate in the tasting, right? It's just impossible. Yeah. Until we create the technology where you can go up to your television and grab the crudo and sample it. We got to taste the food. Like, we actually, for the first time since Kentucky Restaurant Wars, where you and I were lucky enough to dine at the winning restaurant, we got to see these chefs do their thing. And I am here to tell you that the Buddha English breakfast was every bit as good as advertised. That Sarah actually elevated her soup, or the smoked fish soup, even greater, and it was even more refined than it appeared on the show in the competition. Ali, who wasn't thrilled with his lamb pasty in the competition, did a totally reinvented and near perfect version of it. Amar did his thing.
Lots smothered in jus.
There was plenty of jus. You could have had a Slurpee straw and soaked up and spooned the jus. Amar did his raw dish, which was fantastic. And I'm probably forgetting. Am I forgetting? Oh, I'm forgetting Buddha's dessert. Holy cow, the basil ice cream with the strawberries.
He even said basil the correct way, which he joked about when presenting the dish. And yes, they did all these dishes. They cooked them in the back, and then they talked about each dish, just like you would be at any restaurant with the chef there. It wasn't just they were in some back room. They came out and introduced the dishes to us, and it was just, the meal was so good. And I gotta say, when we watched this Restaurant Wars episode, and I remember Buddha saying, hey, I'm going to do a twist on the hot English breakfast. I remember being kind of like, well, that's kind of dull. Kevin, that was the best dish of the night.
Yeah,
English breakfast with the egg and the mushrooms and the sauce, and the showstopper of the evening was what, Kevin?
It was the tomato tea. The tomato tea that wowed the judges in London, wowed the table in Los Angeles. And I will have Tom, today is a very big day, because at around 3:30, I am going to the South Pasadena Farmers Market. I am going to procure 4 pounds of tomatoes from my favorite tomato farmer at the farmers market. And I am going to try in this house tonight and into tomorrow, because it does require an overnight step involving cheesecloth and straining. I am going to try to create a fraction of the umami bomb that is Buddha's tomato tea, which was my favorite taste of the night, the tomato tea. So I'm very excited.
It rocked everyone's face off. I mean, when you drink it, you just don't know what to expect. Like like they said on the show, a tomato tea. I don't get it. Never had that before. I remember just looking at T, one of the producers who you listened on the podcast a few weeks ago. She was just like blown away, and for her, it's the same experience where she, as a producer, she doesn't get to eat the dishes, even though she's there on the ground. She's just buzzing around like a bee, trying to make sure everything is working as planned. So she was experiencing this food just as much as we were. And the umami, you said it was like an umami bomb. It was just so tasty. And I wanted a gallon of that stuff. So right off the top, like Buddha comes by and introduces his meal. We have this English breakfast with that almost like a prosciutto on bread. Kevin, it was so good. It got off to a great start. And then we had Amar's little like scallop, the shell dish where you put in the soup, and it was the interesting dish where you
with
had
the curry
the
sauce.
cold,
This was the hot curry sauce with the cold raw scallops, right?
and the only regret there is just I didn't have another 18 plates to eat it because it was so good. And then the what was it? The Cullen skink,
Yep.
the next dish from Sarah, and it was so delicate. The flavors were outrageous.
It was Eric, my partner Eric's favorite dish of the night. That was what he ranked number one.
Yeah, and a worthy number one. It was like, okay, now we got to have a dish that's a clunker at some point because they can't be this good every single time. Nope, there wasn't a clunker. That was the lamb dish with the jus. It was delicious. I think when we talk about Ali and redemption and the pasty, he completely came back and rebounded and delivered a great dish on that one as well.
Actually, yes, and again, there was no lack of Jew. If the question is Jew eat, yes, we ate. The Jew was present, and then of course you said the Buddhist dessert. I mean, Tom, what was now? Actually, and then we kind of moved into the more social part of the evening. We got to kind of mingle, and it was fun. We got to meet more producers, more people from the show who were. It's just actually really like when you hang out in Hollywood. It's sort of in Los Angeles. They're shows that have, or like any other workplace, there's shows that have like the staff is cohesive and there's good energy and people really like each other. There are ones that are more contentious. It is very clear that people who work at Top Chef are very cool about working at Top Chef. They love their jobs, but it's not culty either. Like they're just cool. And it was really fun to meet a lot of those folks. And we were very privy to, Tom, some really interesting little back of the notebook tidbits on the season. And there was one particular shocker, was there not?
So, everyone listening knows I have a huge crush on Ali. I got to meet Ali in person and I restrained myself, of course, from anything untoward, but we did sit down at our table with about 7. And just to give you an idea, paint a picture, we're at Craft. Again, it would be amazing to go to Craft Los Angeles and see Tom there. It's another thing to eat with Tom and introducing everybody. There's Sarah over there, and there's Amar over there, and there's Gail. No Padma, by the way. Padma was not there at this evening. It would have been great to see her there, but it was so much fun. And I think when you talk about the different experiences that we've had in our professional careers, this has to be right up there. And while the chefs were very good about not revealing anything confidential, Ali mentioned, it's so exciting to be this far in the competition because of how it all started. And I said, what do you mean? He said, oh, I was an alternate. I'm like,
crazy.
I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, I got a phone call and said, you're going to be on Top Chef. We're pulling you off the alternate list, off the bench. And by the way, you're going to be taping in like 12 hours. So he's like, I didn't have any of my knives. I didn't have a bunch of my stuff, but I got on the first flight and flew to London. And it was like jaw hitting the floor that Ali wasn't even supposed to be on this season until the last minute at the 11th hour. Hey, fly to London because you're about to be on Top Chef All Stars.
Right. And yeah, it's funny because we zaprudered when we got home. The next morning, we zaprudered the first episode, and sure enough, the big stage scene, which is shot outdoors, overlooking the Thames River, London Bridge in the background. You might remember it, viewers from or
in
listeners
the park.
from
They're standing
the park.
In this park. Yeah,
right. It's the first time Padma on camera greets the entire field of candidates. They're walking across the bluff with their little knives, and it's that dramatic shot. And sure enough, there is no Ali. So he's had an exceptional. He's had an exceptional season. He's clearly. I mean, we've been talking about the 2 tiers, top of which includes Buddha and Ali, pretty rarefied company. But what's even more notable about that is Ali wouldn't be here. if the season had started maybe a couple days earlier. So that was a great fun detail. It adds to the mythology and mystique of Ali, who is turning into I think is going to go down as one of the better, one of the more notable Top Chef tests, certainly in the top 40 of all time chefs on the show, and possibly even higher. We will see as we go on.
I mean, that's a competition in of its own, is that you're just hopping on a plane and then you're dropped in the middle of this competition that has already started filming. And then it's like, hey, what about that bus scene? Remember, we disapproved the bus scene too, when they're on the London double decker and they're all like meeting for the first time, and Padma's asking all those questions, and there's Ali, he finally arrived. So it was really cool to hear that story, the kind of underdog Cinderella story of Ali just jumping into the competition and performing at the level that he was. While I think a disadvantage is just you're probably sleep deprived, you're stressed out, like, I didn't know if I was going to be on or not. And he's performing excellently on the show. Another thing, we got to meet Gail. We got to meet Tom very briefly, right before Tom did his opening speech, because he's hosting this at his restaurant. And he did a very nice, touching speech about what this all means and how special it is to host these chefs, and how special it is to reach their 20th season, the World All-Stars, and get to taste the food. Right before we went on, we kind of said hello to Tom and talked about basketball, and just a pinch me moment of like, we just hugged Gail, and now we're going to talk to Tom. And I was just like, I was looking over at you talking to Gail, Kevin, and your face, you were beaming, Kevin.
Yeah, we were talking about Toronto food, because Gail is a Toronto native. I covered the Raptors playoff runs in both 18 and 19. And it's a glorious time for Toronto food. And so, of course, we just kind of dorked out on that. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, they have built something really special. It's also worth noting, and yes, we are in the tank, but one of the reasons is that in Los Angeles, ahead of award season for television and film, shows and studios and various entities will host, events and gather members of the media and just sort of just expose people to kind of to the larger show, the producers who produce it, the talent on the show. And so much of the evening was to service that Emmy campaign. Top Chef did win best reality show, I think, competition show for the Las Vegas season, which you and I have recapped. But they've been nominated, I think, 17 times. They've only won once. And so let me to any voters who are listening, damn it. What is wrong with you? The show demands another best reality show competition show award, and so
very worthy this season. Like, how I mean, what do you call it when you send in the tape of your best? Whether it's an actor who sends in their best reel or their best scene, and you send it to the Academy. Any episode of this season, they could send it in and it'd be worthy. The demo. Thank you, Maze, our producer. Where I would say this, of any season that we've watched, I think is worthy of an Emmy win, not just a nomination, because of the fact that they're taking the risk of going to international, and the challenge of bringing in chefs from all around the world, making them live together in a hotel, and just having a really high level competition with people who might not speak the same language, come from different backgrounds, and execute it as well as they've had. I think this is, I know that they were probably trying to get us to say nice things about the show, but they didn't need to do this dinner for us to say nice things about the show. That was just icing on the cake, was for us to be able to enjoy that experience, meet Sarah, who we've had on the show, meet Buddha, who we've had on the show, Amar. Like, what you see on the show, Amar is that times 10. He is such a likable person. The energy, we talked to him about his, because he's Dominican, and in LA, all the Dominican baseball players that you grew up and love, whether it's David Ortiz or Albert Pujols, like, they're BFFs with Amar. Amar is the guy when they land in LA, they text Amar, hey, when can I go eat some Dominican food? And he will cook that. Like, the fact that I was like, oh, so have you ever met Albert Pujols? And he goes, oh yeah, we're like best friends. And then it hit me. who is in LA for the Los Angeles Angels. Of course, he and Amar are tight. And he has all these stories going back to the Dominican to eat with them and spend time with their families. And so, as much as we get on the show about their personality, their background, things like this really demonstrate how three-dimensional these chefs are. They're not just chefs. They're not just TV personalities. They're everything. And so Sarah and Ali, if you haven't found out yet, I think they posted on social that they are going to do a dinner May 31st, I believe, in Paducah, Kentucky. Ali is going to Paducah, which is a reality show in of itself, and he's going to cook at the Freight House with Chef Sarah. I'm not going to be there, Kevin. We can't make it on this trip. I'm going to try to make it to Paducah to eat at the Freight House later this summer, visiting the in-laws. There was so much. And Buddha, gosh, we have a picture of you and Buddha. He was almost more excited to meet us than we were to meet him. I've never experienced that before, where we're like, oh my God, there's Buddha over there. And he almost tackled us. He was so excited.
Yeah, it was all in all just a really fun night, and well placed, because it's a perfect time in the competition to kind of do that kind of event. We got essentially 4 of the final 5 chefs, and
the big thing, Kevin, we didn't know the cliffhanger. We didn't know the cliffhanger. So Last Chance Kitchen, we knew that Charbel and Amar and Sarah had already competed in Last Chance Kitchen in a 2-part series. And I'm watching that being like, wait a minute, when I go to this event, Kevin, we're still not going to know if Sarah or Amar is going back in the competition. But of course, quick recap here. We will do probably a more thorough maybe at the end of the...
For this one, let's go ahead and kind of walk through it, because I do think it's vital too, because the last re-entry is the big one, right? The last, who comes out of Last Chance Kitchen and it gets redeposited into the final 5 is a huge moment. So, I mean, let's run through it quickly. I mean, I think it's probably worth doing, because this was huge. I mean, this is not just every LCK. This is the one that ultimately delivers a potential. It has delivered champions, right? I mean, this is the Joe Flam route back to the title. So we started with Charbel versus Sarah versus Amar. And that was a 3-way meat pie. That was the quick fire challenge.
And the cool thing was that, Charbel, the child who's 25 years old, had to learn how to use a meat grinder, but he never used one of those contraptions before, because this is like an old technology. This is a phonograph or a horse and buggy to him. And so Sarah and Amar are like laughing and giggling as he's fumbling with the meat grinder while they're pulverizing their meat through this grinder, and he's just, it's not working out. But good for him, he does a lobster and beef with beef jus dish that actually beats Amar's shrimp and duck heart kind of pot pie. Sarah does a shrimp and kielbasa gumbo pot pie, and Tom said it. These are all really good. And so they were splitting hairs. He was trying to send somebody home here, even though they probably all 3 were worthy of moving on to the competition. But unfortunately, Amar had to be sent home. He had to pack his knives and go, which was sad because we love Amar. But yeah, Charbel really was on a heater here with, I think he won like 3 quick fires in a row, beats Amar to get back into the competition. Sarah had the winning dish. And then I think Amar's issue, I don't know if you had any thoughts, but apparently the puff pastry was a little too thin for Amar, and that was it, which meant that Sarah and Charbel got to go to the final. And as I'm watching, I don't know if there's one particular chef that the real competition, the cheftestants who are in the actual competition, are more afraid to see, like which one, Charbel or Sarah, that they'd be like, oh no, well, that person is walking through the door. Maybe Sarah, because they've had more experience with her, but Charbel winning at such a young age, he's a child prodigy on this show, that I don't think you want any part in him either.
No, I think we're down to the point in the competition where anybody who's left in Last Chance Kitchen on the doorstep of returning is by definition a threat, right? And that set up the head-to-head of Charbel and versus Sarah, with, by the way, a pretty highly produced final LCK. The chefs had to do 3 dishes. They were each allowed to pick sous chefs, a pair of sous chefs from the gallery of retired LCKers. And I mean, it kind of had big show feel.
Yes. And it was fix your worst dish, favorite thing you tasted, where you're going as a chef, which is kind of like an open-ended brief, right? It's just come up with a cool dish and then make up a BS answer to fill the brief. So 3 dishes, 60 minutes. And as you know, I love a good draft. Sarah chooses first. She takes Nicole. Then Charbel goes with Dale. And then Sarah goes with Sylvia. And Amar is the last one. I thought it was a counterintuitive draft, but it ended up being guys versus girls, which was kind of fun. And the guest judge walking through the door, here comes Gail. And not only that, Victoire, who was not chosen in the draft, she gets the added bonus of becoming one of the tasting guest judges as well. So she gets to be a judge, and she's just, I don't know. Her energy is infectious. She's so funny. And she ended up being, she wanted to say, pack your knives and go. And it was just such a good moment to see Victoire having that other side of the table. So Sarah does the cabbage, which is sugary burnt cabbage, sugary, salty candy cabbage that wowed the judges. She did a take on fish and chips without being fried. And then for her final dish, she did a salmon with green harissa succotash. Kevin, your thoughts on Sarah's choices here?
Yeah, I mean, she clearly was most confident in the cabbage, and it clearly won. And to the extent that there was a best of 3, and I think that's sort of how it appeared as how Tom was sort of approaching the judging. Right? Is they're going to do 3 dishes. It was clear that Sarah won with her what she thought was her best dish, the cabbage. The fish and chips, I think Tom liked, but preferred Charbel's dish, where he really kind of shined on that. And the thing that I was most concerned about on Sarah's behalf was for the final dish, which was going to be kind of the rubber game, the decider. The harissa by definition has some heat, and Sarah, in the process of finalizing her dish, could not find in the kitchen, in the pantry, there was just no green chili. So she had to go, essentially, put a harissa on the plate that, you could argue was harissa in name only, through no fault of hers, just under the assumption that, hey, there'll be something that I can puree into a harissa sauce that will provide heat, and there just wasn't in that British kitchen. And so, I had some nervousness for her before the big reveal that she might go home just because, hey, it's the old cliche, at this level, just the smallest mistake. And look, if you're telling people you're having harissa and you want heat as a taste profile in your dish and you don't deliver the heat, that's kind of a demerit. So that was risky. And what was your general read on Charbel's choices?
Yeah, I know what he was doing with the onion remix, basically his onion dish that was one of the best dishes of the season. As soon as he made it in that first episode, I fell in love with it. Such a beautiful dish, the conception of it was just great. And then he was like, I'm going to do it again.
Which I thought was weird.
It was weird. It was a little egotistical to say, the best thing I ate was something I made. But it might have been the smart choice in terms of just, if I'm going to win, I need something that I know is going to be a banger. And it was a banger. The dessert with the natural sugar, I kind of felt like, yes, it was tasty. The messaging, I didn't really get enthralled with that. But then Sarah was it didn't really land either, I don't think, because of the lack of green chili. I thought, interestingly enough, the first 2 dishes I thought were really good. The third one with the open-ended brief, I just felt like both of those, I think they actually struggled with those dishes because for various reasons, it just wasn't as, sometimes the restrictions help you get inspiration. And that one, I think they both were like, okay, I guess I'll put this on a plate. And then the episode ends. We don't know who's going to Top Chef. We don't know who's going back to the competition in London. And so we're going to the event, kind of reading the tea leaves a little bit, is Sarah coming back in the competition? Her lips were sealed. She, of course, can't say anything, didn't reveal anything. But, as we were driving home from that night, she had this vibe, this energy about her that I was like, maybe that's just Sarah and we hadn't met her in person. Maybe that's just the way she is all the time. But I just was like, if she gets eliminated, is she that bright and happy and just smiley and fun and all that? I don't know. I don't know. And so I just kind of, when we came back from that experience, I was like, man, I really think Sarah is going to be back in the competition.
Yeah, she had good energy. She had energy that said, I'm sort of moving on. So yeah, but all in all, I mean, it was okay. It was a really fun event. It was serendipitous that the event actually took place kind of as we're getting right to the final five.
Right.
And interesting episode, Tom. Interesting episode of Top Chef this week.
Hello, listener. It's Producer Maze here to talk to you about Quince and their cookware. Cooler nights mean cozy meals at home, and Quince's cookware has made fall cooking so much more enjoyable. Their pieces deliver the quality and performance of luxury brands, but at a price that makes sense. And they look gorgeous on the stovetop, too. No matter what item you need to complete your kitchen, Quince has you covered. With 5-ply stainless steel pots and pans, nonstick skillets, chef-quality knives, and even ceramic bakeware, which is perfect for cozy casseroles or Sunday roasts. And when you look at these prices, you might think, how is Quince doing this? How do they deliver high-quality items similar to high-end brands that are half the price? Well, let me tell you, they partner directly with ethical top-tier factories to cut out the middlemen and pass the savings on to you. And it's not just cookware. I got myself some bath sheets. That's right. When you're a tall man, you have to use bath sheets, not bath towels from Quince. It's like drying off with a cloud. It's incredible. Upgrade your kitchen for cozy fall meals with premium cookware from Quince. Go to quince.com/dings for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/dings, DINGS, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/dings. Hello, listener. It's Producer Maze here to talk to you about Kindred. Now, close your eyes like Owen Wilson during a job interview and imagine a way to travel that feels personal, comfortable, and connected without the price tags and the sterile feelings of hotels or short-term rentals. Now, open your eyes and stop using your imagination because Kindred has made it very real. That's exactly what they do. Kindred is a members-only home swapping network. It's not a hotel. It's not a short-term rental. It's a smarter way to travel where each stay feels like home. Here's how it works. With Kindred, your home is your ticket. You earn credits by hosting fellow Kindred members, and then you use those credits to stay in over 220,000 homes in more than 100 cities worldwide. There are no hotel costs or rental fees, just the credits that you've earned. Every stay comes with white glove service, 24/7 trip support, and $100,000 in host protection. Make it easier for you to travel and enjoy yourself and not worry about details. I've used Kindred and I found an amazing home for a weekend getaway in an idyllic location with amazing views and great ambiance. It had everything I needed. And the best part was, it cost me $0. So apply now at livekindred.com and use code DINGS to join for free. Plus, you'll earn 5 nights of travel credit just for signing up. That's right, that's 5 whole nights for free at livekindred, KINDRED.com, code DINGS, DINGS, livekindred.com, code DINGS.
Listener, listen up. This is important, okay? I'm going to try to save you some money here. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. You may think like, oh, that's bad. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. Here's why I said yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for $15 a month. You heard that correctly. $15 per month. Ditch overpriced wireless and the jaw-dropping monthly bills. And of course, there are all these hidden fees and stuff, but at Mint Mobile, plans start at $15 per month. All the plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text. You're not doing like weekend and nighttime minutes or anything like that. And it's delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone. Don't have to get a new phone. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. I switched months ago. People have asked, did you actually switch? Yes, I actually switched months ago. And I don't know what to do with all this extra money. I've cheated the system here. I've rigged something. This is an Ocean's 11 situation where I'm stealing wireless from Mint. That's how good a deal it is. Ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/dings. That's DINGS. That's mintmobile.com/dings. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 per month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
This episode is brought to you by 20th Century Studios' new film, Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, starring Golden Globe winner Jeremy Allen White and Academy Award nominee Jeremy Strong. Scott Cooper, the director of the Academy Award-winning movie Crazy Heart, brings you the story of the most pivotal chapter in the life of an icon. Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. Only in theaters October 24th. Get your tickets now.
Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
We start with molds and jellies in the quickfire after Sarah is revealed and so now we're down to the final five. It is Buddha, it is Ali, it is Gabri, Sarah, and Tom. 4 of the 5 are going to advance. Quickfire doesn't provide immunity, but does provide an extra 30 minutes of cook time, which I think is massive. And especially at this stage in the tournament. And obviously this is a tailor-made quickfire challenge for Buddha, Mr. Mold. He is the moldiest of the contestants.
In a good way.
In the best possible way. And it's difficult because they're going to do a 30-minute to get things going, 1 hour for molds to set and they get to hang out. And then after the hour, they go 15 minutes to demold and plate. Gelatinous food is funny, Tom. Actually, it's very interesting. I was surprised no one really did a savory. Tom flirted with savory, but it was by and large a dessert, a gelatinous dessert, kind of very panna cotta family-ish procession of desserts. And Buddha wins. And of course, Buddha wins.
Of course he wins. I mean, what the hell, man? He made that in an hour or whatever? That dish. Like, what? He's like Superman. I don't understand it. Like, when he revealed that orange blossom, because of course he was talking about it. But when he revealed it, I just, in my notes, I literally just say, what the F? Because it was that outstanding. Like, it was a piece of art that he was able to produce. And like, no disrespect to the other chefs, but it wasn't even in the same league as the presentation of this dish. And so the only thing that was the question for me is, did it taste good? And did the bottom of it, did it work? The saffron ice cream was amazing. There was even little gold flakes on it. It looked fake to me. That's how good Buddha is that it looked fake, which is, I guess, a good foreshadow to the next challenge. Because I couldn't believe that he was able to put that together. But Gabri did a panna cotta, with sponge cake on top. There's dulce de leche with a strawberry, raspberry, coulis, and mint. It did not set, and so it kind of looked like a almost like scooped out a strawberry and raspberry pie, and you just like kind of threw it onto the plate. That's what Gabri's dish looked like. It tasted fine, but in terms of the essence of the challenge, didn't really work. Sarah did the layered buttermilk and strawberry jelly with fresh berries, ginger pecans. Did not do the jiggle juice that Padma just revolted her back on the boat from her season in Top Chef Kentucky. But she had a super tasty meal on that one.
Yeah, and it's a fun dish because I think, like, for me, just when you get desserts at a restaurant, I do love those desserts where you have to kind of, like, they tell you, hey, put the spoon all the way down. And it is the sort of Dannon fruit on the bottom delight and surprise element where you want that dessert. Oh, I got down to the bottom and look what was sitting there. There was a strawberry basil jelly with fennel powder and black pepper. So Sarah, I thought, was a strong number 2 in this competition because, like, the effect. mean, part of the fun of kind of what we'll call fruit on the bottom is that sort of, hey, you dig through the buttermilk to get to the fun down below. And I thought I did well. Ali also did exceptionally well. He did a dark chocolate kind of gelatin, but went with the pistachio crumble and black currant sauce. So it wasn't sort of chocolate on chocolate or chocolate on caramel. He got some nut and fruit in there. And I love those combinations. And Sam Bumpus, who is one of the guest judges, who's kind of one of the jelly masters of London, loved it as well. And so those three kind of got the tell us the good news threesome. And then the bad news was Gabri for his failure to shoot or to failure to set his Dolce de Leche panna cotta. And Tom, who just often, as usual, or as often he does, just got a little too clever by half, right? There were just some competing flavors. Actually, technically, it was a gorgeous looking dish. He played brilliantly with textures. There's curry popcorn with a goat cheese panna cotta. There are beetroot discs. I mean, beet disc. And it looked fantastic. The guy did gels about 17 different ways. But at the end of the day, does it taste good? And the balance of flavors, according to the judges, was off. Is as brilliantly technical as the dish was. And that would, of course, almost be a perfect foreshadowing for the elimination. Tom nailing the technicalities in the chemistry test part of the exam, but not succeeding so much on the palate. And that is sort of become a recurring theme for Tom. So yeah, that was the quickfire, man.
Yeah, and I went as soon as they gave the brief for the quickfire, I was like, oh, Buddha's going to win this. And then this, the elimination challenge, same thing. It's just like, oh, he's going to win this too. And I kept thinking to myself, is that just because he's that good? Is that I'm like, oh, this is in his wheelhouse. How many times have we said that on this show this season? Is like, oh, this is right up Buddha's wheelhouse. He's going to crush this. This is tailor-made for him, and he delivers. And so he gets the 3 in a row heading into this. And Kevin, they got to do an optical illusion trompe-l'oeil. I've never heard that word before. I don't know if you have, but 18th century England ceramics that would look like bugs or plants or animals or what have you. And it was kind of this like furniture piece that was really popular in the 18th century. And they go to this Hatfield house. And I kept thinking to myself, Kevin, like, all right, yeah, this is home court advantage Buddha.
Yeah. I mean, he is, first of all, let's zoom out for a second. And there are times over 20 seasons of Top Chef where a chef finds a zone. Famously, I think most famously, Voltaggio, Michael Voltaggio was sort of that chef, sort of setting the standard for a very long time. Dale, certainly, was it Dale or was it, who was it? Or Paul Key, I think would probably be.
Paul Key, yeah. Paul Key had the most, I think.
He had the most dominant season, right?
But in terms of like the competition too, when you do the adjustment for the All-Star season that Melissa had.
Melissa also was one of those chefs in recent years that just they're going out on the mound and they're going to pitch a shutout. Like you cannot lose. Just pencil in the W. Or hell, don't even pencil it in. You can use ink. And it doesn't happen very often. There are always dominant chefs, Tom, but you don't get this level of dominance for a sustained period of time all that often. It just doesn't happen. There's too much competition, right? I mean, the probabilities of one chef dominating a field of 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 consecutively is just, it's literally improbable. And yet you have discovered that, what Buddha's doing here is not only reaching the heights of the Voltaggios and the Keys and the Melissa Kings, but like this is pretty historic.
Yeah. So I looked, did some analytics on this. And spoiler alert, Buddha wins this challenge. Obviously you knew this if you were watching the show, but yeah, so he did 4 in a row. 4 in a row, Kevin. Like 4. He does a quick fire last episode, wins that, wins the elimination challenge, wins the quick fire, and then wins the elimination challenge again. And one of those was a team competition with Gabri, but still, this still was very much Buddha deserves to win because he took control, because it was just, look, Buddha is on another level. So I went went to our friends at Wikipedia that do those quick fire, Top Chef quick fire and elimination challenge grids. And I tried to find someone who won 4 competitions in a row. So that's 4 challenges. So that's quick fire, win on elimination challenge, win, quick fire, win, and elimination challenge, win. Or you do a elimination challenge win, a quick fire win, elimination challenge win, and then the next quick fire, 4 in a row. Has that ever happened in the 20 seasons of Top Chef? And I'm here to tell you that what you just watched is history.
Mm-hmm.
I could not find a cheftestant in the 20 years of Top Chef who won 4 straight challenges in a row. Now we've seen 4 elimination challenge wins in a row. We've seen that before. Paul Key did it, 4 elimination challenge wins in a row to finish that season. But in between there, he didn't win a quick fire, right? You also saw Gregory. He did win on the elimination challenge, quick fire win elimination challenge. Then he didn't win the next quick fire, but he won the elimination challenge, then a quick fire win, and then elimination challenge again. So he did 3 in a row, missed the quick fire, and then 3 in a row. He won 6 of a possible 7 in a stretch, which is, I don't know, Kevin, would you prefer, do you think the heater of winning 4 challenges in a row is hotter than 3 miss a quick fire and then 3 again? That what Gregory did in season 12 is outrageous.
Yeah, it's a tough call. And I mean, by the way, it's worth mentioning that, yeah, he's won 4 in a row. And if not for like the Tali disaster, the what I'm calling the rice vice, where Buddha ended up on the bottom. If you go back even before that competition, earlier in that episode, man, he was on the top with, he didn't win the quickfire. Amar did, but was on the top. And then prior to that episode, like he won with the best dish in Restaurant Wars, his deconstructed English breakfast. He won with the Bon CO in the previous episode, quickfire street food. Like,
wait, so he won the episode 7. He won quickfire. He won quickfire again in episode 8. Yes. Then he won the elimination challenge in episode 9. He didn't win in episode 10, either quickfire or the elimination challenge.
He got he was the part of the good news in quickfire, but he was not the winner. Amar won with his smoked haddock salad. But yes,
and then he went and won 4 in a row.
Right, exactly. So I mean, he's just been on fire, and it is historic, and it's a difficult challenge. And at first, when they announced it, I'm like, really, this seems gimmicky, but then you realize that, and I think this is something that the show's done exceptionally well this year, is I think one of the reasons we've been very satisfied with the challenges is they're hard. And at the end of the day, you want hard challenges. To the extent that, we weren't terribly into the Restaurant Wars is because it didn't seem as hard. And this is a hard challenge. You're asking chefs to essentially not just make great food in a limited period of time, which is always challenging, but to do something that, frankly, for, I would say 3 of the 5 of them, is not terribly intuitive. Mm-hmm. Boodle does love playing with sort of textures, and he is sort of a bit of a mad scientist. Tom, on paper, this would seem to be a Tom challenge, because he is somebody who does like to play with chemistry and does like, the pumpkin mousse mochi in the box that looks like God knows what, there is sort of a Tom element to this. But it's hard. And I really felt like Sarah best channeled it, right? I mean, this is a chef who is just cooking great food right now. But there's nothing deceptive about Sarah's food. Like, Sarah likes to deliver just food that is comfortable, that is well conceived, that is earnest. It is earnest. There's nothing more earnest in the kitchen than giving someone just an exquisitely prepared pork rib. There's no deception there. In fact, it's the opposite of deception, right? It is primal. What you see is what you get. You don't know, I'm going to come over with a little ladle of sauce and, watch this. Or, no, here's a piece of meat on bone. This is the way people have been consuming this food without deception, without any presentation forever. And she's just a very earnest chef who just puts out food that says what it means, right? And so she confessed to the fact that this was a difficult challenge for her. I think Cabri actually was sort of the most interesting. Buddha was just fantastic, right? I think Cabri was very interesting because I don't think it was necessarily in his wheelhouse. He had a cockamamie idea that, like, how the hell are you going to pull this off?
Dishwasher dish, yeah.
Right. Like, Cabri says, I'm going to make a dirty dish sponge, which, by the way, in and of itself is kind of bizarre, but it's actually going to be a sponge cake with raw lamb on top of it. So, okay, like it's in and of itself, it was also he to execute this weird choice, he had to go and put some weird food together that normally you would never. I mean, sponge cake and lamb tartare, one of those two foods ever in the history of cuisine ever been on the same damn plate. Maybe never. And so much admiration for Gabri for kind of answering the call. But Buddha, man, I mean, I just want to get back to this. I'm going to make a charcuterie plate that starts literally with a glass of wine. It looks like a glass of red wine that is actually kind of yet another sort of broth, not unlike kind of in the tradition of his tomato tea, is a beef and onion consommé, basically.
Yeah, consommé, yeah.
Right? Like, I'm going to give a little loaf of bread that it looks exactly like a loaf of bread, but it's actually a porcini frigging mushroom. I'm going to do a cherry that looks exactly like a cherry, but is a meatball. I'm going to give you like a black truffle, on a seasonal French charcuterie board that is actually a potato croquette. And even the little olive it's a medallion or a little clump or a little olive-shaped orb of goat cheese that was dyed black by squid ink. And it's like, you think Buddha got the challenge?
Oh my God.
He got the challenge.
Kevin, it was a masterpiece. It was visually stunning. I mean, I'm a sucker for optical illusions. When I was in third grade, I did a project on optical illusions. I nerded out for like 6 years about that whole genre. I remember going to the Inn at National Hall, this hotel in my hometown, that artists had created all these hotel rooms that had all these optical illusions and magical like paintings. If you step outside the shower and look in the mirror hits just right in the other room that now there's a monkey on the wall. And it's like all these amazing little tricks of the eye, magical illusions, magic eye, all that stuff. I couldn't have loved what Buddha did anymore. The fact that they had that little blurb describing the dish and didn't even get to the olive, right? The little text when they introduced the dish had all those things, and I don't even remember olive being on there. And they're like, oh yeah, and there's an olive over here. He went above and beyond with the olive, didn't even need it because the other 4 elements of the dish were that spectacular, and he just did a terrific job on this dish. And you could sense the judges. As soon as it hit the table, they were absolutely floored by the presentation, and they could sense that this was even without tasting it, this was going to be the winning dish. That's just Buddha. I mean, Buddha pulling this charcuterie board and executing is one of the biggest moments, I think, in Top Chef history. I got to say, it's one of the most magnificent dishes I've seen on Top Chef as I'm watching.
Yeah. It was just visually, it was a blast. I mean, it was, I think he understood, sort of the challenge. Some of the better chefs had trouble. I mean, going back to Sarah, she wanted to do a matzo ball soup, but kind of presented it as a tamale. So it was sort of, with the chicken stuffed inside kind of the matzo ball meal. But it is actually that's very clever. I think the judges were a little confused by, I got what she was doing with the carrot and celery, right? Like the base of any carrots and celeries are ever present in a traditional Ashkenazic matzo ball soup. And so she said, okay, I'll have the carrot and celery in there. I'll just kind of put them as jellies. I don't think they have much effect in that regard, but she fessed up to the fact that, look, everybody was doing tricks. I felt like I had to do a trick, and jellies are tricks. I love Sarah and the way she kind of composed herself during this challenge, which again was such an away game for her. She played along, didn't pretend that this was a strength, and owned up to it. And then the apple and bone marrow salsa, I think, provided more acidity than the judges wanted in the broth. One of the funnier parts of this episode was how delightfully ornery Tom Colicchio was about every single optical illusion. And so like when we got to Ali's garden soil, there's no turtles in soil,
the technicalities.
What the hell is this jelly doing here?
quinoa is just quinoa. It doesn't look like soil.
The sponge was nice, but he needed to carve off the edges a little better for the optical illusion. Like I loved Colicchio. It was one of my favorite Colicchio episodes ever because like I love his exacting standards. I just love them. Like I love that, it was the best of Colicchio in this episode. Like he didn't even give Gabri a break for what was ultimately a finish near the top dish. Cause like it was true. Like the sponge didn't really like the thing when you get those sponges at a store, like with the little green, the brio pad on top. Yes. And it's what I use here. Like, yeah, it's a very industrial cut sponge. Like there's nothing hanging over. There's no, there are no threads. And so Tom wasn't wrong, but it was just funny. There was very like, until we got to Buddha, like he was sort of the disappointed dad in 4 different iterations of this. I want to talk about Tom a little bit, like, and wanted to get your impressions. Like, what's your read on kind of a fascinating dish? And he clearly nailed a lot of the challenge, but Tom ultimately went home kind of the way we thought he would go home, correct?
So I'm so glad that Padma mentioned this because it was just on the tip of my tongue. I couldn't place why I didn't love Tom and Ali's dish. I couldn't put my finger on it, why it didn't land for me. And she mentioned it is like the trick that you pulled, Tom, the fake caviar that was used instead of, fish roe, you used fish stock to make it taste like caviar. And there was no trick. The trick was, hey, I'm going to make caviar that isn't actually caviar. And there wasn't this like, this juxtaposition, right? Where it looks like caviar, it looks like it's going to be super salty and fishy, and it actually tastes like strawberry cake. It didn't land on that note, right? Same thing with Ali, which is, I remember having a similar dish at the dining room in Miami Beach. Shout out to Zach Lieberman, my guy. Where it was like a mushroom dish where it looked like dirt on a plate, and they had kind of this illusion that what you're eating looks like a pile of mud or something you'd find at a garden, right? I've had that dish before. I've had a dish that looks like a garden, like looks like a salad, but lots of floral aspects to it with some mushrooms in there. And there wasn't that kind of the magic of an optical illusion is you think it's one thing, but it's actually another. And for both Tom and Ali, Kevin, I felt like they... I think it was Jeremy Chan who said it, Mr. Tasty, who kept saying that everything was tasty. And I've said it on this episode. I think it's because it's a worm in my brain now. But Jeremy Chan said, these dishes looked like they were inspired by, a garden or caviar, but it was not a trick of the eye. And I thought that was really poignant, is the idea that they created these visually looking like one thing, but not tasting like so different than that one thing. And so what Tom did was, I'm going to show you my technical skill of creating a caviar without actually using caviar. And these little bubbles are going to be made of seaweed and fish stock instead. And that in of itself is inventive and clever, but it didn't speak to the challenge.
Yeah, it did look great. And he did, Tom has some real, he is kind of the Anthony Randolph of this season's Top Chef, right? Like there are some intriguing, he's got some really intriguing skills. Like Tom is really creative. I don't think it's just like, but to your point, what made
I'm just
the
laughing at the deep cut that is Anthony Randolph.
Anthony Randolph
even NBA fans will be like, wait, was that? It was an NBA player back in the
Anthony
day.
Randolph,
such a great deep cut.
To provide like 5 seconds of context, was one of the most tantalizing talents ever to hit like kind of the prospect level of the NBA, because there are moments where he just looked like the kind of basketball you've never seen before. Like he was 6'10", but he moved like a guard and he could kind of pass, and he had these fascinating move. The way he moved through space was deceptive. And there was in 1 minute you might think he could be the next top 10 player in the league, and on the next minute you're like, could this guy actually play basketball, right? And so I feel like Tom kind of fits that mold, where there is talent and there are skills. It's just, can he put it together to win? But again, to your point, what made Buddha's thing, like there is no taste, like goat cheese and olives are on the opposite end of kind of food texture, taste, and everything, right? Like a cherry is nothing like a meatball. Like a glass of red wine is nothing like onion broth. right? And so, but you know, it is very much like fish roe, a bubble that looks like fish roe made with fish stock and soy sauce, right? So it was he rather than
seaweed, which comes from the sea.
Exactly. So like in some ways, and I thought Padma was really spot on. Like that was the thing. But on the other hand, it did look it was a really cool looking dish.
Yes, it was.
But yeah, it was just all in all, it was a really difficult challenge. And I think, I mean, props to the challenge producers and just the general producers. Like, hard challenges yield interesting television. And they keep putting these chefs in positions that aren't, I mean, sometimes you and I would get frustrated, like, oh, they give them a appliance, but then the appliance doesn't work. Like, that's not cool. But I do think that, like, just if the basis line of the challenge is very difficult, it creates good television. And I thought they really did that here. And again, it didn't turn out. I mean, we're in the final 5, and I thought it was very interesting that there were only kind of 2, quote, winning dishes.
I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah.
I was surprised Sarah wasn't considered in the top 3. I think like the thing that they didn't like about it was the tamale, that it was a little confusing. And then
they didn't think much of the jellies. I think the broth was perceived to be.
Thank God for Gail, who kind of like stood up for Sarah. There was like, no, this actually works, and here's why. And then Tom felt, like, oh.
So you would have had her as like from last episode, the Tom, like the one middle person who's neither winner nor loser. You would have had her kind of, because she clearly was third, right? Like they pretty much.
I would put her in the top 3. And because I thought it tasted good. I think it was deceptive. Thinking it was a tamale, but it was actually, we at least heard
no, but don't forget, Padma thought it was a piece of sushi. Like, it wasn't in terms of the optical, and I'm not dogging on Sarah here. I'm only relaying what I gleaned from the judges, which was they actually didn't identify it as a tamale on first look. It was like, oh, okay. I thought it was a piece of sushi, I think Padma said, right? Like, it wasn't, I don't think in terms of like,
but at least one person did say that's a tamale, and we got at least a little bit of that. So I think we're quibbling on the fact that
I would have gone to
in the middle or in the top.
I would have gone to, like, she would have been like Tom from the previous episode. You had the top, the 2 top, the 2 bottom, and then like the person hanging out. Like she would have been, and it was clearly like there was a definitive top 5, and they ranked them very distinctly, right? It was Buddha, Gabri, Sarah, Ali, Tom, right? Like that was the order of finish for the elimination.
I thought Ali was going home.
You did? I didn't. Because it was just, like, at the end of the day, I don't know that Tom's dish tasted all that good. Whereas, like, Ali made a damn good falafel. Like, at the end of the day, the man made a good falafel. Like, do you want to suck on kind of juji beans that taste like seaweed? And I love seaweed. I make dashi here with, like, with kelp and friggin' bonito. Like, I love those flavors, but it just didn't look, I mean, at the end of the day, it was, I think one of the judges said the bulbs themselves were a little gummy, right? It just didn't seem like a fun dish to taste or eat. It was fun to look at. And that's sort of Tom's problem. Like, at the end of the day, when he doesn't succeed, it's he didn't get the consistency right on the mochi or the mousse. But sometimes it's just like, okay, almond cream and fish stock balls versus sumac mousse and falafel. Like, which are you gonna have?
It was dry breadcrumbs, but not seasoned. True. And he was like, yeah, I get it. And also, I thought it failed on the mission. So I think not only was it not, there were elements of the dish that didn't taste good or didn't work, but I don't think that Ali fit the mission as well as Tom did, whereas Tom actually kind of did a little trick. It wasn't all the way there. He kind of went halfway with it. And so I also thought that, Tom, for the warts of using the almond cream, which Tom didn't understand why, I thought the almond cream tasted good, or did I not remember that correctly? I thought it was just they didn't understand why he used almond cream in that dish, because it just didn't fit the whole brief. But I think Ali, with me, again, I just thought that dish we've seen before, a garden salad with lots of floral notes and the mushrooms. I just felt like it, and he struggled, and he admittedly had a tough time conceiving the dish and figuring out, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And of all the dishes on here, I thought he had the least magical touch to it. And I thought that was, if we're going to be splitting hairs because all these chefs are so qualified and exceptional at this point at the final stages, I thought Ali was going to go home, but I understood why he stayed. I didn't think it was as clever as Tom's was. However, I think it tasted better than Tom's. So he goes home and Tom had a moment of, he got emotional at the end where he was clearly proud of his work and getting to this competition for someone who I think was kind of a dick sometimes. Even in the beginning of this episode, Kevin, when he's talking to Gabri and is like, "Oh, I'm a prankster." He's talking about how he went to pranks is my superpower, and he went to clown school, and then says, "Oh, did you make that bed?" And then he jumps all over the bed like a child, and then starts ragging on Nicole, saying, "Yeah, Nicole went home, but she also had 35,000 years of experience." And Gabri was kind of like, "Oh, that's a mean thing to say." And
I found that off-putting for two reasons. One is I am Nicole's age, and screw you. And two, Tom, I make my bed the minute I get out of bed every morning. Like, to me, there is nothing worse than looking at an unmade bed. And one of the worst kind of products of the Zoom era, where now they get news commentators doing shots from hotel rooms and their offices and their bedrooms, for God's sakes. And like when you go to meetings, like people are kind of in their like bedroom or whatever, is the sight of an unmade bed just terrifies me. And so I don't like anyone jumping on my made bed. Like, you do not mess up a made bed until you're ready to go to bed. Like I am anal. And so as much as the ageism, and I say that tongue in cheek. I mean, like nobody makes more fun of my advanced age than I do. But actually the made bed, you do not mess up a made bed. Never do that. Never do that.
And there've been parts of this season where we were, he made some kind of searing comment or a little jab at someone, or just kind of stubborn, kind of this brash, like, I'm not doing that. So if you don't like it, tough shit. And part of that attitude is what got him this far in this competition. He's going to do his cooking, and whether you like it or not, he's going to do it. And he's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve, but he wasn't able to deliver on this one. And I gotta say, when Sarah walked through that door after the Last Chance Kitchen and says, "I'm back, bitches," it was, I don't know, I was happy to see her come back. And then for her to deliver yet again, it was one of these things where I was like, I hate when the Last Chance Kitchen winner comes back and then gets immediately sent home. And so for her to work her way to the finale, or at least to the Paris part of this, I was really excited to see that. Now, hats off to Gabri. This guy was our last pick in our draft. If you had told me he was going to make it to Paris, I would have thought you were crazy. And here he is, not only making it to Paris, but doing where he won with Buddha last week and then finished in the top 2 this week. So you can't say that this guy does not deserve to be here after not having a single win throughout this entire season in the Elimination Challenge or in the Quickfire. This guy comes in on episode 11 and 12 and wins, or is in the top 2 on this episode. He belongs. I'm sorry, he belongs. And whether I'm the most to blame, I actually picked Samuel out of Last Chance Kitchen over Gabri, who is in the competition. So I'm as much to blame here as anybody for underestimating Gabri, who's been kind of messy at times, but he's absolutely deserved his final 4 spot here in Paris.
There's a reason why he is underestimated, which is that every time you watch him during prep in the kitchen, the guy is running around just completely exasperated, right? Like, and they're always, every dish in the prep phase seems like it is on the edge of disaster, right? I burned my beans, or
the cream was too hot on this one, and so it splattered everywhere when he hit the plate, and then it actually worked,
But that was sort of, and in some ways, that situation was the perfect illustration of Gabriness, because it was one of those things where he gets, just to remind viewers, that he's doing the sponge and now he wants to do the cream. And I think he wanted to do it quite orderly, but that little aerosol dispenser was just going crazy. And so it was splattering everywhere. And then it was like, oh, but wait a minute. What do sponges clean up? Dirty plates. So the fact that the thing is spreading everywhere could actually work in my favor. Like, it was just sort of, he fell backwards. I'm not suggesting that it was, he's only up there because of luck, but it was one of those cases where like the lack of time and the fact that things were malfunctioning actually worked in his favor because he was doing a play on a dirty plate. So this is the one time in a competition where you can get credit rather than knocked for just having a splatter of gunk on your plate. But yeah, he is a guy who just he flirts with the edge of disaster every single challenge. And yet, and Mina talked about this last week on Pack Your Knives, it was just, there's a creativity there. There really is. He is in some ways in the Buddha family of chefs where'd you come up with that?
Yeah, we got a little glimpse of his last season. Like, he had in Top Chef Mexico, he had the same challenge, which is like the optical illusion challenge. And he won that challenge. And when they showed that challenge dish, I was like, oh yeah, that is super cool. So he has delivered, obviously, in past seasons of Top Chef before. And I'm just, his personality, Kevin, that moment on this episode when Sarah asks him, what are you going to do in France if we get to France? And he just says, I'm going to French kiss some random guys. And it's just perfect.
And we will have our next Me-Too Top Chef scandal.
Because it's just like he has one of these moments every episode where it's just, I'm going to flirt and I'm going to try to make out with dudes on the street. So we have Gabri making it to France. They're going to Paris, and Buddha is on the hot streak of hot streaks. I want to give out some shout outs here to past hot streaks in my study here. Chef Antonia from season 4 had a quick fire win, elimination challenge win, a quick fire win, and then finished high in the 4th one. She was so close to pulling off the double-double that Buddha, I'm going to call it the Buddha now, the double-double, sweeping one episode and sweeping the second episode. We have never had that, but Stefan, if you remember, Stefan in season 5, he went quickfire elimination challenge, didn't hit the next quickfire, but then he won the elimination challenge and then the next quickfire. So he did double, miss, double. So very close, 4 out of 5. And then in a 4-episode stretch, he won 3 elimination challenges and 3 quickfires. He had an absolute heater of a run. And Leah in that season also quickfire, elimination challenge, quickfire, and then the middle in the next one. Dale Talde, quickfire win. He finished in the low and then in the elimination challenge, then a quickfire win and a win in that season 8, Dale Talde. Season 7, Angelo started out 3 for 3 right out of the gate. Quickfire win, quickfire, and then in a low, Paul Key, we already talked about. Brooke had 3 elimination challenges in a row with a quickfire, but not consecutively. So not one after another. Nicholas finished in his season, very contentious, very controversial, winning over Nina Compton. He finished quickfire win-win to finish out that season. We already talked about Gregory, how much of, 3, then a miss, and then 3 is just ridiculous. Jeremy Ford, season 13, did quickfire, a win, a quickfire, and then in the middle. So he had 3 in a row. Sheldon, also very close. Joe Flam finished with a quickfire and then 2 wins. So he had 3 in a row. Melissa finished with 4 wins and a quickfire, 5 of 6, but did not get all 4 in a row. Dawn won 3 quickfires in a row in her season 18, but not an elimination challenge in the run. Evelyn from last season going against Buddha down the stretch. Evelyn did 3 elimination challenges, wins in a row, but no quickfires in the midst of that stretch. So Kevin, we have had some heaters in the history of Top Chef, but what we're seeing from Buddha heading into the Paris stretch of the competition, hats off to Buddha. And I just want to say, as delightful as he is on the show, he's just that way in person, where he wants more information. He's a sponge of information. Hey, he's asking us about our podcast, how we produce it, how we execute it. But he does it all with a smile on his face. And one thing I wanted to note on this episode, Kevin, is when he got the 3 in a row and the 4 in a row, he looked like a little kid. He was so excited. And I think that's part of the reason why he's so, even though so dominant and confident and kind of people might characterize as arrogant at times, the way that he gets excited when he wins and succeeds on Top Chef, it is so heartwarming to see, because sometimes you have that guy or that girl who wins everything and just is very, I don't know, business-like, cold accountant win. No, Buddha is just as excited as anybody we've seen on this show to win. And so for him, this does feel like I get excited for him when he wins. He could have taken a different direction, just be like, yeah, I'm supposed to win, no big deal. So I just think Buddha, I know he's on your team and he's just crushing the competition right now. I just think it is so cool to see someone who is so excited. You know, we in today's kind of, I don't know if it's a statement about today's society and how everyone's so careful not to, you know, rub people the wrong way with how excited they are, happy they are. Buddha doesn't seem to care. He was just like jumping around like he just won the spelling bee competition, and he just was so excited.
I mean, he loves cooking competition, and that's so very clear, right? Like he loves. I mean, it's a fun way to spend the day. Is basically my read on Buddha. He's just having a really good time. The competition is not a source. It's not a source of anxiety. It is a source of it not only you challenge yourself. You get to participate in competition with others. You get to be in the kitchen. You get to conceive. You get to execute. Like all the things that clearly turn him on about being a chef are activated when he is in the middle of a Top Chef, a grueling, I have to make 5 elements that look like something else, right? And so that's always my take is just, and to add to that is what Mina talked about last week, which is competent is appealing, right? Like he takes it seriously, not too seriously, maybe a little seriously for some, but it just, he does take it seriously because it again, for all the reasons I mentioned, and when you succeed at something you take seriously, it's exhilarating. And so, yeah, he's just an incredibly likable dude. And again, like was thrilled that I was, even as an intermediate home chef, going to even try to make tomato tea, which I'm going to do in the next 24 hours. And we'll have a report for you for next week. Tom, you want to kind of run through, I mean, the final thing to really talk about is, wow, you were whooping me about 3 weeks ago. And all of a sudden, I am it's a 156, 152 game. And we going to Paris in the final 4. So, I mean, yeah, I guess that I've said it all here, right?
Well, I'd rather not talk about it, Kevin, but you did. 156, I'm winning by the skin of my teeth, 156, 152. But also in a bit of reciprocity and the fact that you have 2 chefs and I have 2 chefs. I have Ali and Sarah left in the competition. You have Buddha and Gabri. So not only are we neck and neck, we have 2 chefs left. So it's almost tag team, me versus you. You've got 2 chefs. I've got 2 chefs. Then also, as May's pointing out, in the last 2 weeks, you've got 39 points and I've got -6. So you've closed a 45-point gap in the last 2 weeks, and now you've only got 4 more points that you have to go to eclipse me down the stretch. There's 2 episodes left on Top Chef. We do have a preview. Were you able to watch the preview of next week's episode, Kevin?
I did not see the preview because we had to run out to yet another ridiculous dinner when I was doing it. So I kind of then decided I didn't want to see anything, but like give me a little tease and as your closing thought, give me your sort of handicapping going into the final 4.
So the Paris preview went as such. Of course, they're at the Eiffel Tower, of all places. Of course, they're at the Eiffel Tower, and that's where the competition is going. It's pouring rain out. Everyone looks freezing. It looks like the middle of winter. And here's the challenge. Padma says the infamous wall challenge, which is you're cooking and there's a wall between you and the person next to you who's cooking, and you have to talk about your dish and explain your dish as you're cooking to someone who hasn't done that dish before. And so it's, I believe we've done this before, and T, if you're listening, I apologize for not having this offhand, but we've had the wall challenge where there's almost like this curtain between the 2 chefs, and I'm trying to remember, wasn't it like a family member is with you and you're teaching your family member how to cook a dish and you're yelling across the wall.
That was a fun one.
They're doing that, and their partners are not the cheftestants. The partners are 4 what looks like to be American Olympians who are going to Paris. And I think Paris has the Olympics next year, right? In 2024, because Victor Wembanyama.
And more important, NBC has the Olympics.
Oh, yes. I love that. Some great cross promotion there. So it looks like there's 4 Olympians who are going to be joining Top Chef in the elimination challenge, the wall challenge, where Gabri and Buddha, they were showing them, are just like frantically yelling like, oh, and this is how you do this, and this is it. And then you see the Olympians like, okay. So we're going to get the wall challenge here in the Paris episode in front of the Eiffel Tower, which is just super cool. And so I don't know how I feel about busting out the wall challenge this late in the competition. I kind of feel like it might be like a middle of the road thing, because if you just are paired with someone who's inept cooking, should you be penalized for that? I don't know. I kind of feel like I recognize this is a challenge and it's supposed to be hard, but I was a little bit uneasy about the fact that like Gabri, if he goes home, it could be, or Buddha goes home, it could be because he just has someone who's illiterate when it comes to cooking. And I just feel like, should coaching another person in the kitchen be an element or a factor in whether at this stage of the game you go home? I could be swayed both ways, but what were your thoughts now that you've heard that it's going to be the wall challenge? How do you feel about it?
I mean, this is the great debate for kind of when you get to the final 4, which is on one hand, you want the challenges to be hard and to be interesting, right? This is the show at its climax. You want great challenges, and novelty often is a great ingredient for a great challenge. On the other hand, you also want the chefs to be able to succeed and fail on their skills. So you don't want to go color too far out of the lines because, again, as you said, you don't want someone to go home for some weird variable or some coincidence, or you don't want too many elements of chance. Like, how much chance do you want to introduce into challenges to decide who is Top Chef at the end? Because, well, it seems patently unfair. So I'm actually, everything you've told me gives me both great pause and anticipation, because I do love novelty. I mean, that is what makes these challenges great. I mean, at the end of the, I will say this, as wonderful as the finale episodes are, sometimes they're a little slow. It's like, okay, chef in isolation, having plenty of time to cook, coming up with interesting ideas that they probably have thought of, because no chef enters the finale without knowing what is my I can do whatever I want meal, right? And so there are times where it's the very nature of the prestige that renders it a little less interesting. So you do want that, but you don't want too much of it. So it'll be great. I'm actually very curious to see how it plays, because again, I mean, if you get some pole vaulter who doesn't know who's never made toast, like, what the hell are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It sounds potentially troubling and potentially really interesting. And all the more reason I'm excited for that screener to drop and for next week's episode to drop. Closing thoughts, Tom, as we change stage from London to Paris.
I just want to give a shout out to the folks at Top Chef for what an amazing dinner. At the event, it was For Your Cravings, FYC. It was a really, I don't know if once in a lifetime experience is a little too hyperbolic, but I really felt that way as I'm sitting there listening to Tom talk about his restaurant and his dish and his experience on Top Chef, and then have Sarah and Buddha and Amar and Ali there, and Gail, finally meeting Gail. It was really special. So shout out to the whole team over there. And I really, you know what, Kevin, like, just wanted to say also, this has been such a pleasure to do this podcast with you, man. Like, it really has. And I can't tell you how special it feels to go from, I don't know if this podcast is going to work, to, oh my God, we're going to eat with Tom and Gail and the whole crew. And it was a really cool thing for me to experience with one of my favorite people in my life, Kevin. And so thank you for doing this over the years. The listeners really want to stay with us every week and listen to this podcast and allow me to be self-indulgent here for a moment. But this has been so much fun. And I gotta say, it was really cool, not just to go to Top Chef, but to do it with you was a really special thing. So thank you for saying, Tom, get your ass out of Charlotte and fly. Here's a flight. Go hop on this flight. You're coming here, and stayed at your house. And it was just a really pleasant experience. So thank you so much for doing this show with me. And thank you so much for being my pal as we guzzled down those bourbons and ate the caviar we forgot to mention the caviar little discs.
How many Bellinis did you have in the little appetite in the cocktail hour?
I think I had 17. Spilled about 4.
It was somewhere between 12 and 20. It was my count. This has been a pleasure. You hatched this crazy podcast out of nothing, out of basically weird Friday morning phone calls you and I would conduct after a Top Chef episode, and said, "Hey, why don't we turn those into a podcast?" And this has been amazing. Also, like you, I would like to thank the good folks at Top Chef. Everyone there has this very appealing humility, right? Like nobody's on airs. Not Tom and Gail, not the producers, and certainly not the chefs. And they're just all wonderfully, like, there's nothing more appealing in the world than a talented person who also has humility. And we got that across every capacity, producers, talent, chefs, hosts, everything. And that was a real thrill.
Yeah. And we get this a lot in covering the NBA is people are like, "Oh my God, you've met LeBron James. Oh my God, you got to meet Dwayne Wade. Oh, Steph Curry. What's he like in person?" And oftentimes it's not that they're evil people or that they're bad people or even average people in person, but there are certain things where in this, in line of work that you get to interface with sports celebrities. Sometimes, the saying goes, don't meet your heroes, right? In this case, Top Chef, we met our heroes, and they were as cool and as affable and pleasant and gentle and all those qualities that you watch this show and expect. They went above and beyond. So sorry that we're gushing so much about that experience in Top Chef, but that's kind of why you listen to this podcast, I'm guessing, is because there is kind of a mystique to this whole thing. And I'm here to tell you that mystique is not fake. It is absolutely authentic, and it seemed as magical as I thought, meeting these chefs and Gail and Tom. It was just that. So hats off to Bravo and Top Chef and Magical Elves. Excellent event, excellent show, and can't wait for Paris.
For Tom Haberstroh, this is Kevin Arnovitz, and this is Pack Your Knives.